Hi everyone, Simon from Higher Plane Games with Ultimate Racing 2D2, and Nuno has kindly uploaded a 2024 mod for us to all download from the Steam Workshop. I've altered some of the stats just to try and reflect a little bit closer to the 2024 original season, because this all kind of carried on from 2023's performance rankings, so Alpine less good this year, for example. But we can use this mod to try out some of the interesting newer tracks that have come into the base game, because most tracks got now a version 2 for us to muck about with, or a new entirely. So we have, for instance, Qatar is brand new, so let's add that one on. San Marino wasn't there beforehand, so we'll add San Marino on. Bit of a weird dive back and forth there for us. Netherlands, I think, is new, so that's a new one there, or it hasn't been redone at least anyway. Then we've also got Bahrain Oval. Oh yes, let's pop that in for round 4. No one's paying for the air freight, so that's helpful. Hungary has got a completely different rebuild here and different perspective, so I think we'll stick that one in for round 5. And then if we pop in, I think Saudi was new, so that's number 6. We're a bit heavy on the old bits and bobs there, so let's do Brazil for 7. Mexico for 8. The improved Kota, hopefully, for 9. And let's finish off in Suzuka for 10. 20 laps. Plenty of fun to be had there. Soft and hard tyres. We're sticking with cold conditions. We'll put damage down to low. And let's get going. All right. Here we are, round 1, off and away. This is quite a long circuit, this one, as I was mucking about with it beforehand. Sargent clearly continuing his 2023 form by the looks of it there. But Verstappen well out front. The tyres are only going to last 5 to 8 laps with the soft tyre compound, so that's looking like a 3-stop potentially if you come in at the end of lap 5 each time around. But clearly a very abrasive surface, and it's quite a long lap as well, so that will also be the reason why. But Verstappen looks like he's going to come round and take an absolutely stonking pole position. Well done, well done, well done. Everyone else over the line. Piastri on the front row. Russell 3rd, then the 2 Ferraris and Hamilton. Perez down in 7, the 2 Aston Martins, and then Norris, not a great quali, down in 10. Then a clear top half and second half of the field. So the Racing Bulls, the Williamses, the Saubers, the Alpines and the Hasses, all gaggling around for the back end. It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. It's my usual stance of everyone scoring points except for last place, and Verstappen leads us off the grid at Qatar. He's on hard tyres though, so Piastri's going to try and get down the inside. He can't do anything about it though. Russell's right behind. The 2 Ferraris are both on hard tyres as well as they make their way down to the back end of the circuit. Leclerc running out slightly wide. Everyone trying to make it through nicely. Norris making up positions, trying to get round Perez and Alonso quite nicely. Further back, Albon seems to be best of the rest currently at the moment. The 2 Hasses are on hard compound tyres, along with Bottas. Ocon is last, also on hards. And look, Russell's gone past and Piastri's gone past Verstappen as they try to make their way round the final corner on onto the front straight. And it is Russell that leads from Piastri. Look at Leclerc using the slipstream to move himself past Verstappen and up into 3rd. Hamilton's going to go round the outside too and gets up into 4th. Verstappen being absolutely crowded out down to 5th position. Alonso then into 6th and closing in with his soft tyres. Albon going round the outside also on softs up into 7th, clearly punching slightly above his weight, although Carlos Sainz gets him back again. Gasly in the Alpine up in 9th. I didn't expect to see that, as he now becomes 8th position, going around the outside of Albon. Clearly the car's running out wide there a little bit if they get punctured a little bit off track. Ocon has dropped off the back of the field as well there. I'm not quite sure what's happened to him. Hulkenberg is down to 19th as well. But it's Russell, Piastri, Leclerc, and then it's free wide here for Hamilton, Sainz and Verstappen. And again, Sainz is going to wrong for Verstappen, who might be on hard tyres, but I don't expect him to be dropping this far back. He's slightly damaged, but not tons. And Alonso is about to bully his way through up into 6th. Verstappen gets him back again. It's a real good switchback from those corners. And that keeps Verstappen ahead for the time being. But I think Alonso's going to get him. Yes, he is. And Verstappen runs out wide. And there's Alonso using slipstream again to bounce through past Sainz and moves into 5th position. So Aston Martin definitely back in on the hunt, as here comes Piastri for the lead on George Russell down into turn 1. McLaren 1, Mercedes 2, Mercedes 3, then Ferrari, Aston Martin, Ferrari, Alpine now up into 7th with Gasly punching well above his weight. There's Albon going round Verstappen, who again runs out wide down in 9th. Then it's Norris, Ricciardo. Guan Yu Zhou has moved up into 12th in the Alpine, but Tsunoda's on hard tyres, as is Lance Stroll, who's a bit damaged down in 14th. Kevin Magnussen, Sergio Perez down in 16th. This is not working for the Red Bull team at all, as Perez down in 16th, not where we'd expect him at all. And here comes Russell back past and into the lead. So swappings of positions. We're on lap 5 now, so pit stops potentially open and away for everyone. It says Norris and Ricciardo have now got past Max Verstappen, who's down into 11th. So both Red Bulls really struggling, and considering I've given them the best stats, and you saw all of this before we went into the actual race, I think this definitely shows that sometimes having really good AI means that it gets a bit pointy and struggles a bit, or runs offline a bit like Hamilton did there against Leclerc. But Hamilton's trying to get back through again. Leclerc's in a great position as George Russell pits, as does Hamilton and Alonso. Piastri goes round again on those soft tyres, clearly quite happy there. So Leclerc and Sainz go through. Albon goes through, also on softs. So Russell rejoins in 7th. Back out on soft tyres again, ahead of Max Verstappen. So new fresh tyres, all that grip. A pit stop ahead of the Red Bull as he goes to work now and trying to get past Pierre Gasly. Hamilton's behind Verstappen, as is Alonso, who's switched to hard tyres. That's interesting. So a different strategy there from the Aston Martin. Perez now up to 13th, but that's more because we've had Daniel Ricciardo pit and Logan Sargent's pitted and gone onto hard tyres right at the back of the field too, as Piastri's in from the lead, handing it a 1-2 to Ferrari. Piastri coming out on hard tyres, interestingly. So where does that occur? Oh, boink! That didn't help Max Verstappen at all there. Albon comes back out again on another pair of soft tyres, this time in 11th position, sorry 12th. Guan Yu Zhou comes back out on hard tyres just behind his teammate who's yet to pit. So again, it's really showing that if you get a good run on something, it can work. And Pierre Gasly has dropped to 19th and has not stopped. So something's happened there. I wonder if he got caught up in someone else trying to get into the pits and he missed it. So he's had to go round again, as Leclerc and Sainz waltzing away up front at the moment. This is all going to be about strategy though, because look at George Russell in 4th position, nice clear air. Piastri is now dragging Max Verstappen along with him. Alonso and Hamilton are there, but Hamilton again on soft tyres. That's not worked quite as nicely for him as I think the other hard-tyred runners may have hoped that it... Well, problems. Yeah, look, Gasly not able to get into the pits again. So I think Pierre might have gone from being absolutely superb to absolutely disgusting, as that's Ricciardo and Magnussen getting back onto the circuit, both having some kind of trip into the gravel, and they've lost loads of time, particularly for Daniel Ricciardo, who has pitted already. So real problems for him, and Kevin Magnussen has yet to pit and is now down in 18th, so that could well put him to the very back of the field. Into the pits comes Lance Stroll and Sergio Perez, both going from hard to hard. You could technically make it home from there, but your tyres would be knackered. Stroll coming out just behind Ocon, Ricciardo and Zhou. Zhou getting past Ricciardo for the time being. Just about. The soft tyres there have degraded slightly, but you'd think you'd have more grip in that racing ball. The car fundamentally expected to be better as well. So, can Gasly get into the pits this time around? No, he can't. He's got absolutely stuck. So I think we're going to have Pierre Gasly just conk out by the end of this race as Leclerc leads the way. There's Russell, Piastri, Alonso gets past Hamilton in their squabble. But there's signs out now in soft tyres on lap 10. That will mean he needs a pit stop, really, doesn't it? But he's out ahead of Norris, who was kind of there or thereabouts, but again, fresh, nice tyres. Hamilton towards the end of his soft tyre life. You have to say that I think Ferrari have actually played this strategy quite nicely. Next time around, does Leclerc come in? Yes, he does. Nicely done. He goes on to the soft tyres as well. I mean, you could try and make it home, but it feels like you'd want to do a second stop there as Leclerc gets out ahead of Alonso and Hamilton. That's crucial for Leclerc. And if he can hold off Alonso and Hamilton, I think that will put Charles Leclerc into fantastic stead as Piastri and Russell continue on their way. Again, Russell running out of tyres, Piastri less so. So there's Gasly in more problems. That's Valtteri Bottas about to take Kevin Magnussen. Nicely done. Ocon and Ricciardo have been into the pits as well, so it looks like Alpine is all fallen apart for them as George Russell into the pits from the lead. Softs on. Oh, and Hamilton's run into the same problem as what Pierre Gasly has. This is huge for the Mercedes driver because I think he's going to have the same problem and we're going to run into yet another car that couldn't make it into the pits. That's the problem when you come off of the straight alongside someone and then can't quite get in time. Everyone else seems to be okay. So there's poor Gasly just kind of clonking around. But look, Charles Leclerc already all over Oscar Piastri. And he's going to slide on by and into the lead goes Charles Leclerc. Beautifully done. From Piastri, who is playing the longer game with those harder tyres. Alonso is even worse condition there in third. Norris with fresher softs in fourth. Sainz in fifth and Russell now with pure softs in sixth. But I wonder if he needs to do a short stop at the end. Verstappen now in seventh on soft tyres. Seems to have now got some clear air. So I wonder if that will help him out. Then it's Albon, Stroll now up into ninth. And Albon's just pitted actually for the second time. Then it's Tsunoda, Hülkenberg, Perez down in 12th place. Not quite where I expected him to be, behind a Haas. Then it's Sargent, Ricciardo, Zhou with some damage, Ocon, Bottas. There's Hamilton, and he's still not been able to pit. And look at the state of that McLaren. And you can see Gasly has conked out, but he's conked out. Oh, that's not a great place. And there we go. Alonso in trouble. Uh-oh. Let's see if Gasly will just conk out just off the racing line. No, he's going to come onto it and that's going to spank Albon and they're going to push that Alpine around. I hope he will just conk out and be stuck on that pit. Boink. Oh, dearie me. So Gasly there causing all kinds of problems. Oh, and then Perez smashes into the back of him. And there's Hamilton having the same problem. So whilst that continues on, Charles Leclerc winging his way around 2.5 seconds clear of Oscar Piastri, but Piastri's tyres are way worse. So you can see Gasly is parked up, but it's off the racing line, so hopefully that will keep people clean for a bit. Max Verstappen now up into 4th position, low on tyres. He might need another, well, I think he'll need another stop. Oh, as there's more carnage and problems there for Norris and co. Hamilton has smashed into the back of him. There's Sainz going through to lap him up into 7th. Albon doing more pushing in 8th. Stroll and Hülkenberg round out the top 10 with Tsunoda not too far behind. Who's doing what now? So still no pits for Leclerc or Piastri. But Max Verstappen, I thought he'd be in. He's going to do a last 5-lap dash and he comes out behind Carlos Sainz, who those tyres could make it to the end. Same for Alonso. So Verstappen has kind of rejoined behind. He's going to need the skill of his car along with having slightly better tyres to try and make it home and be okay. Someone else in the pits there, it's Guan Yu Zhou, who's pitting from hard tyres to softs. He'll come back out in 17th position, so a bit of a late stop for him's not really worked out. And there's Piastri and Russell and Leclerc all in together. Leclerc rejoins in the lead. Fresh new tyres. Piastri then into second. There's Alonso third. Russell 4, Norris 5, Sainz 6, Verstappen is in 7. This is the real squabble then, because Leclerc does have a gap, but it is Piastri, Alonso, Russell, Norris and Sainz all squabbling away for second down to 6th. Alonso runs out wide, Russell sneaks his way through. Perez and Ricciardo in the pits whilst this goes on. Hamilton stuck trying to get through, and I think someone else is now in trouble as well. Oh no, it's good. They're both stuck there and they've both conked out. I think we're clean from all of that now, thank God. As we cross over with 3 to go then. And it is Piastri just ahead of Russell, then Alonso. Norris and Sainz have dropped slightly further back. I think Sainz wants something to say about it. Norris wasn't quite as quick as Piastri in quali. And I think that's kind of proving out a little bit now. Although Piastri does have stronger, newer tyres. And look, Russell and Alonso being absolutely pulled apart as they try to pop a lap on the Kicksauber of Valtteri Bottas. And there's Alonso, he's going to try one way, try the other to get round and scissor Piastri, or pincer Piastri with Russell, and they do so. Beautiful stuff. Through goes Norris as well there. So Piastri goes from 2nd to 5th in just a couple of corners. Russell now heads up this queue and is going to try and pull away. Leclerc just swanning along quite happily, 3 seconds up the road. And there's Piastri defending all he can from Sainz. Verstappen's there and thereabouts, but he's too far back really to do much about it. I don't see much going on elsewhere, apart from that Hülkenberg-Ricciardo-Sargent battle. But they are far enough up the road to not cause too much of a problem here as they're starting to get strung out. Russell's closing down Leclerc, but with 1 lap to go, unless Guan Yu Zhou causes absolute problems here for Charles Leclerc, which I don't think is going to happen very much. Oh, kind of gets in the way, now gets out of it. I think we're okay with Leclerc coming through to victory, and actually this has all kind of fizzled out a bit. Carlos Sainz finally getting round Oscar Piastri for that 5th position. That took a while. Verstappen there and thereabouts, but not really close enough. But Ferrari have played that strategy beautifully for Charles Leclerc, and he's going to come through and take a well-deserved victory. Popping a lap on Magnussen and Sargent in the process, and Magnussen gets Sargent at the line. Excellently done. Oh, Alonso gets Russell on the line too for 2nd and 3rd. Norris then 4th, Sainz 5. Piastri holds off Verstappen for 6th and 7th. Looked like Verstappen had him at the end there. Then it's going to be Albon, Lance Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda rounds out the top 10. That looks like Sergio Perez just getting past a weaker Nico Hülkenberg on tyres for 11 and 12. Then it's Daniel Ricciardo, Esteban Ocon, then a lap down Magnussen, Sargent, Zhou and Bottas, with Hamilton and Gasly failing to finish. So, nicely done. You can see the point standings for how I do these China Championships. So Leclerc really winning out there beautifully. Plenty of points going on up and down the field, and it makes that every single place matters and is worth fighting for. And what that does is it puts Ferrari into the championship lead ahead of McLaren and Aston Martin on equal points. McLaren doing better in terms of overall stuff. I think that should really be Aston ahead of McLaren because Alonso got the 2nd, but never mind. Red Bull auspiciously off down in 4th position. We'll see how long that lasts. And Alpine still outscored Sauber and all of that. All right. Imola and San Marino is up next. More picturesque countryside, quaint wine town. And off and away we go. These tracks are definitely, with these newer versions, longer tracks to get around, basically, I find, in a nicer way possible, because it makes it much more of a flowing driving experience. I do recommend these updated tracks as people steam around them, and it looks like Lewis Hamilton quite fancies getting himself a little pole position here if he can help it, although I don't know if Carlos Sainz is anywhere close enough. No, he's not. So Hamilton gets pole for Mercedes, Sainz alongside. Norris a much better quali here. Perez too up in 4th. Verstappen down in 7th. Wow, that's no good. And again, we've got that real split of the top 5 teams and the back 5 teams. But Albon best of the rest this time around. Haas showing well. Then the Racing Bulls, the 2 Saubers. And Logan Sargent in an Alpine Sandwich towards the back. All right. Top 3 on softs, Perez on hards. Let's see how we get going for 20 laps around here. And look, the tyres are going to last a lot longer this time around. Hamilton defends nicely into the first chicane. A few people grinding wheels but getting away with it. But it is. Hamilton leads from Mercedes. Norris moves now into 2nd. Sainz and Alonso battling away. Alonso moves up into 3rd. Perez there chopping off George Russell. But he's going to need to watch out for his teammate who is on the soft tyres. And indeed, Max Verstappen dives through. And Russell has Perez anyway after the end of that, down into the Ravazzas. Then Leclerc trying to get a run on things after leading and winning race 1. Now up into 7th past Perez. This definitely feels like hard tyres are not the way to go off the line at the moment. Some real strugglers towards the back there. Both Saubers, Sargent and Gasly really poor off the line, and you can see on the timing screen there that the soft run tyres are all bounding their way up the field. It's quite a tight track, this one, so it's going to be difficult to see how everyone kind of bounds past. There you can see Piastri and Perez in hot tyres, hard tyre pursuit, causing a little bit of blockades there. So now Daniel Ricciardo is able to get through, but then he runs out wide. Oh, because Perez has got a penalty there. I'm not quite sure why, unless he was deemed to have cut or caused a problem there for Ricciardo. But Perez there causing issues really for Lando Norris, who's now dropped back to 13th and is the last of the soft shod tyred runners. So he tries to get back round the Alpine of Esteban Ocon. There you can see the McLaren does have better straight line speed, and that's without any kind of toe. Although Ricciardo definitely has one. Up front, oh, that was a problem coming out of the Tosa hairpin there for Hamilton and Verstappen. It's all changed up at the front, and look at this. Sainz, Leclerc and Alonso all going at it hammer and tongs. The 2 Ferraris and the Aston. You've got to be careful for damage as they cross the line, but Fernando Alonso pops into the lead in the Aston Martin. I think he's slightly OP with my stats so far, but there we go. The only hard-tired runner doing well at the minute is Oscar Piastri. Everyone else has dropped back, although Kevin Magnussen's the leader of the second lot of this. So it really has become a 2-tier race, really, of soft-tired shod cars versus hard. Almost like a Formula 2 race. So it's Leclerc, Verstappen and Alonso, and they are so far clear of Russell. Lance Stroll doing a great job up into 5th position, a much better showing this time around. Hamilton, Verstappen now clear of Piastri, but they're dragging Oscar along. So Oscar really trying to keep that hard-tired car in the best possible position that it can. Having a little dive bomb on Verstappen, gets past and through. Verstappen pushed onto the grass down to 8th. Ricciardo 9, Norris there with smoke coming out the back of that McLaren in 10. That won't be great. Ocon then 11 and is about to be done, I think, by Kevin Magnussen in the lead of the Haas drivers. And yeah, down around the outside. Great use of slipstream. Beautifully done. There is Perez and Albon battling away again. The Red Bulls just don't have the pace here. I'm not sure what's going on. Piastri having a go at Hamilton, just off your screens. There's Gasly, Zhou, Tsunoda, Bottas, Sargent, all kind of towards the back. Real bigger field spread here. Shorter lap time as well by a third. There's less than half a minute for a lap here as Russell, Stroll, Verstappen, Ricciardo all in. There's a huge gap there after Oscar Piastri for these cars to come out into. So Russell, I think that will be his only pit stop. Stroll will struggle to get round, I think, on a soft. But Russell, Verstappen, I think, has done a great job there moving on to hards as well, out ahead of his teammate. There's Ricciardo, who's come back out on softs again. That's going to be a struggle to get them home. Ocon now with smoke pouring out the back of his car. Tsunoda, I think, won't be too far off that either. As there's Leclerc coming back out on soft tyres, Sainz and Alonso, there's a big gap. That wasn't like that before they came into the pits. Piastri now in second. That's the key there, is that they've now got a hard shod McLaren in the way. Sainz immediately through. Alonso's going to need to do something similar if he's going to try and command this podium position. He does so indeed. Ocon into the pits right at the back of the field, just rejoining in 20th. Now you can see Leclerc now half distance running away with it from Sainz. Alonso. There comes a steaming through George Russell, who I think could well be in the pound seats here in terms of tyre wear. Let's keep an eye out for the Englishman. Piastri, Stroll yet to pit. Sorry, no, he has pitted and he's in 6th position. That's interesting. Then it's Verstappen, Hamilton, Perez, Ricciardo, Albon. And there's the rest of the field just ploughing their way through. Ocon being taken there by Sargent. Well, no, he's trying to get back round Logan Sargent. And there's Tsunoda down at the back of the field with a very damaged Racing Bull. Not far off being lapped to either, as Leclerc runs away with it. Russell keeping a watch on Alonso. That will turn as the soft tyres degrade and the hard tyres don't nearly as much. Stroll now up into 5th ahead of Piastri. Piastri's tyres coming towards the end of their life. I would personally pit now and probably switch myself to maybe the soft tyres, but Piastri goes round one more time. Hamilton closing in on him quite quickly. I don't know what happened to Hamilton earlier on in this race, but he really dropped back a lot. Perez, with smoke coming out the back of that car through damage, being stalked by Alexander Albon's Williams. Gasly doing a better job this time around, and that looks like Kevin Magnussen is about to absolutely bomb past Guan Yu Zhou's Sauber as his teammate Valtteri Bottas pops into the pits, Tsunoda being lapped. And that's key, because while Tsunoda and Sargent have been lapped, Leclerc's lead has absolutely destroyed itself. Sainz now all over the back of Leclerc. Alonso able to deal with Tsunoda, who goes flying off the road as they try to lap each other. Albon, Hulkenberg into the pits, which is all very helpful. Piastri continuing on still without a pit stop, really stretching this out. And I was going to say, Sainz into the pits for a very early stop and a switch to softs to get him to the end of the race. Who else is in there? That is Piastri, that is Hamilton in as well. They're all in on for softs. Tsunoda's a lap down, so isn't really part of that battle. I imagine Perez will be in too. Yep. Gasly should be. Yep, and Magnussen. So they've really split this one up so that it's trying to get like 2 for the price of 1 if you're trying to do the soft tyre strategy. Now Leclerc is in. Couldn't make it to the end. Interesting. I think they should have gone for hard tyres. Now, will George Russell be able to do something about it? Yes, he does. He pops into the lead. He does have older tyres though, and he's not on softs. So look at Carlos Sainz immediately on the attack. He's going to try and take Leclerc and does so. Runs out wide at the exit from Tosa, side by side into the top of the hill and down into Aqua Minerale. Bottas getting in the way again in that kick. Sauber gets kicked out of the way there by Charles Leclerc, and this is all allowing George Russell to get a 3-second gap over the Ferraris, who need to stop battling each other and focus on the Englishman ahead of them. There's Verstappen being taken by Alonso. Again, I feel like this is the right strategy to be on if you've had a clean run. Piastri now into 7th, having to deal with Logan Sargent being lapped. And you can see Norris further down the field. So some 2-stoppers, quite a lot of 1s. Sargent's on a 2 down the back there. And there is George Russell about to pop a lap on 17th placed Guan Yu Zhou in the current lead. Kick Sauber. Oh. Kicking each other, and they're kicking each other between the Ferraris as Leclerc gets back ahead of Carlos Sainz there. Alonso cleaning into the back of them. Got to be super careful. Verstappen now ahead of Stroll, with Hamilton and Piastri steaming through behind. Daniel Ricciardo popping a lap on his teammate. That won't go unnoticed by the senior team. And he's ahead of Sergio Perez. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. There's again both the kick Saubers really getting in the way of the people that they're trying to lap. And George Russell now severely under attack by the 2 Ferraris, who are honing in quickly. What's Kevin Magnussen's Haas going to do for George Russell? Not a lot. He's going to have to really think about it and look at the speed of which Carlos Sainz is coming for him. Kevin Magnussen does push him out into the grass, gets a penalty as a result. And look, this is a Ferrari attack on George Russell, who's ran out of tyres and steam. Carlos Sainz goes through and takes the lead for Ferrari. Charles Leclerc looks like he's going to dive through in second, doing around the outside at Ravazza 1 to seal it for Ravazza 2. Get your words out. And on to the final lap. Sainz versus Leclerc. Sainz was battling around with Leclerc quite happily earlier on. Now there's a little bit of a gap between them. It looks like Carlos Sainz is going to absolutely take the victory for this. Let's see if Esteban Ocon causes a problem or not, because he's going to reach him right at the line. But it's another Ferrari 1-2. Wow, what a superb run there for Ferrari to get Sainz and Leclerc across the line. Russell on the podium for third. Alonso just shy in fourth. Verstappen again, a better run in fifth, but it didn't really work out for him. Piastri still sick from Stroll at the line. Close racing there. Then it's Hamilton. Perez will be 9, so at least a top 10 for him. Ricciardo gets home 10th position for the Racing Bull. Albon 11. Norris a disappointing and distant 12th. Then it's Hülkenberg. Esteban Ocon was lapped. Then it was Kevin Magnussen, Guan Yu Zhou, Pierre Gasly, with Bottas, Tsunoda and Logan Sargent being last place and not scoring anything. Interesting to see Oscar Piastri got the fastest lap there as well. There's a couple of people in the 28 seconds mark. Perez being one of them. Okay. So it's a Ferrari double header at the top of the championship standings after 2 rounds. Leclerc ahead of Sainz. Alonso moves into third, just channeling or holding off Russell. Verstappen and Piastri equal in points ahead of Norris and Stroll. Albon has scored more than Perez at the moment. Then it's Hülkenberg. Hamilton down in 13th. Obviously still trying to get some points after that disappointing single point in the opening round at Qatar. Ocon punching above his weight in the Alpine ahead of Tsunoda, Magnussen, Zhou, Bottas, Sargent and Gasly is still last. Ferrari lead the constructors ahead of Aston, McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull only 5th and only 1 step ahead of Racing Bulls. Williams and Haas equal on points, Alpine still ahead of Sauber. Alright, Netherlands next. Let's have a butchers at this one. Tyres are going to take an absolute pounding round here. The soft tyres only lasting 6 to 9 laps. So we're going to have to be quick about it. Over the lines everyone goes. And well, if Red Bull are going to have some kind of change of fortune, here's going to need to be the track where it's going to need to start happening, because they've had a auspicious start to the 2024 modded season. But it looks like Carlos Sainz is quite intent on converting. Oh no, he's not. He's hit the wall there. That's not great. Most people did, to be honest. As they come across the line, it looks like Carlos Sainz is going to take a beautiful pole position. But this time around, it looks like Max Verstappen is on the front row, with Perez backing him up in fourth. Red Bull looking a little bit more unsung here. The Mercedes are there and thereabouts. Leclerc down in 7, our championship leader. McLaren's a little bit further off in the distance. Second half of the field, Tsunoda is your best of the rest this time around. Big gap there between the two Saubers. Zhou beating out Bottas. And Daniel Ricciardo down in 18th. I don't think we'll be very pleased with that either. Alright, it's raceroo time. More on hards than softs. But your front row is full of soft-tyred shod cars. Sainz versus Verstappen, and Verstappen crowds Sainz onto the inside run, gets the lead. Hamilton there was slow and then got absolutely mullered and pushed forward, which has allowed Perez to move up into third. Then it's Russell getting past Sainz, who's slightly damaged there in that Ferrari. Leclerc's not had a great start and he's on hard tyres as he struggles to hold off Lance Stroll, Kevin Magnussen and Yuki Tsunoda. And that looked like, Zhou, I thought, had a terrible start towards the back, but not as bad as Alexander Albon, who's last on hard tyres, as more and more cars smash into the barrier, exiting that tight chicane at the end of, start of Sector 3. Verstappen then leads the way from Hamilton, Russell, Alonso, Sainz trying to go around the outside of Alonso. That'll be a good move if that comes off, and indeed it does not. Ish. Does not. Ish. Well, Alonso fancies another move. In fact, they both fancy a bit of George Russell, who ends up in a Alonso Sainz sandwich as they go down into the chicane. Who's going to spank the wall? It will be Carlos Sainz, and that's going to leave that Ferrari somewhat damaged as they come down the start-finish straight. Russell then moves up into third position ahead of Alonso Sainz. Norris and Perez are next up. Tsunoda up in 8th position, having a good run. That's Kevin Magnussen diving up into 11th place, if he can get past Lance Stroll. But no, Stroll puts him onto the grass, and Piastri there, who's down the order on hard tyres, then able to bounce his way through. Magnussen looking quite damaged, as does Ricciardo, as does Sargent, as does Zhou. In fact, they do all have a bit of damage towards the back end. This is why we put them on low damage. These tracks sometimes have some quirks in the AI that doesn't quite work so nicely, as you saw in the opening round as well with the pit lane problems. So, anyone fancying a pit stop? Doesn't look like it. They're all continuing on. Albon down at the back of the field. I don't think he was quite expecting that. But Verstappen, well, normal business has finally been resumed as we get to round 3, but he's not pulling away massively, and the Mercedes are keeping him very honest. Alonso, secret squirrely, there in 4th position, making sure that he's still there and thereabouts, which I think is interesting. Norris and Perez battling away quite happily, and that's a huge gap back then to Tsunoda and the second half of the field, which is odd to say that Leclerc is part of it, but he's just not pulling away at all. Here comes Piastri having a look at Esteban Ocon. That's not really how you overtake. But well done for having a go anyway. Albon's got past a few drivers there, and that's Daniel Ricciardo, who is our first pit stopper on lap 4 onto lap 5. Hard tyres, last 10 to 13 laps, so he will need to pit again. I think for some people this will be minding the damage until you can get to the earliest point of a pit stop, like Carlos Sainz has just done in the Ferrari. Is he onto hard? Yep, I thought he would be. And there he's going to have a nice gap potentially that he could fall into behind Lance Stroll and ahead of Kevin Magnussen, and indeed he does. So that could work out quite nicely depending on who pits where. Zhou's into the pits too, as is Logan Sargent in the Williams. So yeah, let's see how this all goes. And you can see there Ricciardo's leapfrogged Sargent quite nicely in all of that because of this, just the speed advantage you get with a fully fresh new set of tyres, as well as being able to get your damage repaired too. And this is a messy pit lane for Verstappen, Alonso and Russell, but they are all coming out behind Hamilton, Norris and Perez, who are your top 3. Verstappen, Russell gets out just ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. I think that was key there. Leclerc is now holding up Alonso, who's come back out on soft tyres again, interestingly. Everyone else has gone for the hard once they've gone into the pits. But Alonso's trying something different, and he's going to need to be quick about it because Tsunoda and Leclerc are busy battling with him everywhere, and he's not really getting his way through, and this is hurting Fernando Alonso. He needs to be making sun whilst the soft tyres shine. Leclerc gets a penalty, and that holds up everyone, and look at Carlos Sainz steaming through. That is key for Alonso to make sure that he tries to get back ahead of him, and indeed he does. Is he going to get Tsunoda too? No, he dips in behind. Yuki Tsunoda is causing all kinds of problems for these people in this race. Lando Norris and Sergio Perez are currently your leaders. They're yet to pit. They've been battling and squabbling since the opening lap, and they've been taking time away or off each other compared to everyone else, to be honest, as Gasly and Bottas pit towards the back. Clouting into the wall goes Perez, courtesy of Lando Norris, and neither of them pit. They continue on their way. But look at how quickly Russell, Verstappen and Hamilton have just closed into the back of this duo, and now they've got a bit of a gap between them, and there's some significant damage. I think actually they'll be potentially less problematic. I think Alonso's in trouble now that he's in 7th. They've got round Tsunoda, thankfully. Hulkenberg up into 8th. Esteban Ocon now in 9th following Leclerc pitting. Then it's Stroll, Piastri and co behind as Gasly tries to battle with Albon. Definitely an Alpine and Williams back sandwich going on there. I need to stop saying sandwich. I thought it was funny the first time and I've said it too much. Norris is in, Perez is in, and through goes Max Verstappen on Lewis Hamilton, and that's for second place. Obviously, throughout all of these pit stops, Verstappen, who was leading the way, has dropped behind both Mercedes and has now just worked his way past the first of them. George Russell, who will be hoping it's not a little bit of history repeating from Imola, where he was leading the way and got slowly caught by the Ferraris, is hoping that the Red Bull doesn't do the same to him this time around, as he starts off lap 11 of 20. Nice and speedy. Sainz damaged in fourth position. I don't think we'll be able to challenge quite as well with that damaged car. Alonso, soft tyres, but look, if you look from Sainz to Alonso, he's already gone past the crossover of wear, so we might be able to do something immediately, but this will come to an end quickly, I think, for Fernando Alonso, as he tries desperately to work his way past Sainz, and I think he's going to end up on the outside again and then be clattered into the wall if he doesn't make this nice. Oh, he doesn't make this nice at all. That was horrible. And through goes Carlos Sainz. More damage for Alonso. That has not worked, that strategy. Norris now into 6th position. Perez 7th following their stop, so that's kind of a net gain, I think, from where they were before. I'm not really sure. Piastri there gets past Charles Leclerc for 9th and 10th. Our championship leader down in 10th. Don't think he'll be a championship leader at the end of this round if that's where he's going to finish. Haas having a good run though, with 12th and 13th for Hulkenberg and Magnussen. Ocon in soft tyres and clear air is doing well again in that Alpine in 14th. Zhou trying to hold off the other Alpine of Gasly in 15 and 16. Ricciardo with those early pit stops slightly out of sequence to everyone else and is about to be caught, I think, by Bottas and Albon, who have got fresher tyres. And then you can see Bottas trying to work his way through, and I think it'll do the opposite of what we saw with Alonso, where you can take the inside line and push the other car into the apex, well, into the barrier really. But Bottas not able to pull it off, and Ricciardo gets himself back through again. This gives an opportunity to Albon, firing down into 18th position. Bottas swings out. Just as the ice cream van arrives outside. Oh dear. Never mind. Enjoy the additional sounds if you can hear that through the speakers in the background as Russell pops a lap on Logan Sargent, who was looking good early in this race but seems to have had an absolutely atrocious middle section and has dropped back to last place. But still, Russell is leading the way from Verstappen, and Verstappen hasn't really caught back onto the back of Russell quite quickly enough. They've got exactly the same tyre wear. Hamilton has slightly better tyres by a lap. As there is Gasly rejoining in the Alpine right into the path of George Russell. Gets out of the way, but that puts a car between Verstappen and Russell. Gasly, obviously with soft tyres, might actually be quite decent with that and gets out of the way. But look at Verstappen and the way how he powers through, and then he makes a dive bomb on Russell. That's worked out quite nicely. Gasly, what are you doing? 3 into 1 won't go into the chicane. And that has been a problem there for Verstappen. He took the lead, he's lost it immediately, and now look at the damage that he's got to his car. Into the pits come both Russell and Verstappen. Hamilton takes the lead. Sainz in too because he's damaged. Sargent as well. Here comes Norris and Perez, who are trying to one-stop this show. And they move up into 2nd and 3rd. So now Russell and Verstappen on soft tyres need to get back past this duo as quickly as possible if they're going to do anything. And now it's up to Hamilton. Do you try and stay out and hope for the best with your 6-second advantage over Norris and co, which is already down to 5 because of the traffic that's going on here with Albon and Gasly and previously Ricciardo. Hamilton's not pitting, he's going round again. Zhou exiting the pits from what was 16th now down to 17th. But yeah, Hamilton's going to need to be very careful with his tyres, but there's a lot of lapped traffic in between him and Norris, Perez, Russell and Verstappen, who are all squabbling away, and we've seen that lap traffic has not been kind to this race so far as Russell goes round the outside of Perez and onto the podium. After being attacked last time around, Russell's taken the more attacking strategy, and I think it's going to potentially work in his favour. But it's all around what does Lewis Hamilton do? Does he pit? Does he not? No, he goes round again. As does Norris, of course. And there is Russell making his way past Valtteri Bottas on the kick Sauber. Next up for Norris and Russell is his teammate Guan Yu Zhou. Look at Verstappen trying to do something on Russell, who's made a wrong move. But no, Bottas still in the way. Norris has got more damage than the other two. And look at Zhou, they're powering through on the soft tyres. This is what's making it so difficult. They're actually quite speedy with the soft tyres on compared to knackered hards. And some damage, and look at that, Russell into the barriers, Verstappen too. These kick Saubers have become a real problem when it's come to being lapped, and they're in their own battle with Daniel Ricciardo too, and I think Norris is going to get caught up behind it, and that's going to allow Russell to get through. 4 wide into the corner, Ricciardo loses out, Russell into the barriers, Norris moves up into second. This is absolute carnage and chaos around the Zandvoort circuit, but Norris holds on to second for the time being. And this is music to Lewis Hamilton's ears, because whilst his tyres are knackered, they're all squabbling with each other, closing in slowly but nowhere near at record speed. But now Russell and Verstappen have got round Norris. Verstappen gets pushed into the wall, but Norris can't get back through. This has released George Russell with a lap to go to try and attack Lewis Hamilton. Look at the state of his tyres versus teammate Russell. Verstappen puts Norris into the barrier of the pit wall. That won't be nice at all. Perez then down in 5th, Alonso 6th. And this is now all about, can Hamilton's tyres stay on the car long enough for George Russell, for Lewis Hamilton, get your words out, Simon, to actually win versus Russell. And it looks like it might well do, but it's getting closer as they go round these final couple of corners. And hopefully there for Lewis Hamilton, he'll have enough, and indeed he does. A victory and a 1-2 for Mercedes. Hamilton, Russell, Verstappen on the podium for the first time this year in 3rd. Then it's Norris, Perez, Alonso and Sainz. Leclerc a very distant 8th, but at least that got him back up to some points again. Tsunoda a great run to 9. Stroll to 10. Piastri 11. Haas doing well with 12th and 13 for Hulkenberg and Magnussen. Ocon a decent run to 14. Then it's Gasly, Zhou, Albon, Bottas, Ricciardo and Logan Sargent scoring absolutely zilch down at the back of the field. And whilst Verstappen got that fastest lap, he didn't get that win, and Mercedes certainly did. Some great running there, and I thoroughly enjoyed that race. So, good old stuff there. That's Russell now into the championship lead ahead of Leclerc and Sainz and Alonso. Verstappen's still there and thereabouts. Don't count him out, obviously. And then there's a slight gap back to Norris. Hamilton jumps up to 7th with another great run there with that victory. Perez now up into 9th. And it has become the top 10 versus the bottom 10, if that makes sense in terms of teams. Where Albon the best of the rest, just ahead of Hulkenberg and Tsunoda though, so a real good scrap going on there. And just Gasly, Bottas and Sargent without double-digit points. Ferrari lead Mercedes in the Constructors. Let's move on to the Bahrain Oval. Now this should really be all around straight line speed. So I'm expecting some interesting stuff here, potentially from the Red Bulls. The Williamses might go particularly well here. Oh, that's not a great AI line. Oh well. I'm sure it will still be fine and fun as we work our way round. We might just find some people stuck in the gravel, but look at the way how the Red Bulls have really extended their leads here. Verstappen and Perez, an easy front row lockout for the team. Then it's Russell, the two Ferraris, Norris, Hamilton, Alonso, Piastri and Albon sneaking into the top 10, beating out Lance Stroll with Magnussen, Ocon, Tsunoda, the two Saubers. Hulkenberg, Ricciardo again 18th position, and Sargent only ahead of Gasly there, so not a great run for him. So this could very well be a one-stopper for soft-tyred people. And we'll see what the hard tyres do as they carefully make their way into the absolute sand trap that is turn 1. I should have tested this before going live. But Perez leads the way for Red Bull. We wouldn't have thought that earlier on. Here comes Verstappen diving through into third. Now Sainz leads the way as everyone's squabbling around. They're a bit running very, very wide in that final corner. And you can kind of see there that hard tyres can almost do the entire distance of this race. But we'll see how it all kind of unfolds and gets out. This is going to be a real problem into turn one, isn't it? Oh dear. Never mind. But Alonso leads the way then in the Aston Martin. Didn't see how that all came about. Then it's Perez, Sainz. Ocon's up into fourth. You what? Clearly the Alpine has been bouncing off of everyone else when they've come into the corners for all of that. But it's worked out nicely for him. That's Leclerc getting past Piastri. Or is he? No, Piastri is able to take that back. Then it's Norris, Albon, Verstappen down in... where? I think Verstappen's classed as being a lapped car. He's not triggered a beam somewhere and has been disallowed a lap. Oh my goodness. That is not good. He's considered a lapped car as Hamilton gets round him. He's not being shown the blue flags though, so I'm a bit confused as to why he's showing as 20th and a lap down from everyone else. Okay. Never mind. But Sainz leads the way anyway. It's all looking juicy. Now he's being shown the blue flag. Is Verstappen. So, this is a mess. Just chill with this race, I think, is going to be the name of the game. But Carlos Sainz has got no chill, leading the way quite happily, having a great time. Piastri up into second, then Alonso. Perez now in 4, Hamilton up to 5th. He was looking midfield earlier on. So hard tyres starting to really show their own. I think the cars will be damaged enough to need pit stops before they'll need tyre changes. Particularly if you look at Lance Stroll there, he's got quite a lot of damage going on. And now he's got a penalty which allows Albon through. There's Norris and Ocon now quite severely damaged in 11th position. I wonder if some of these people might go for a pit stop. Yeah, look, Stroll's in, Ocon's in. That will allow Verstappen some clear air before he gets more blue flags. Zhou, I'd imagine, to be in there. Maybe Hulkenberg as well. Oh, it's a proper mess, isn't it? Never mind. I didn't know. Into the pits then early comes Carlos Sainz. I think that's because you can get now home on soft tyres. You could really try and up the ante with hards, but I think because of the damage that goes on with these cars, it's difficult to really shout too much about doing anything other than soft tyres with this, as Sainz now tries to go around the outside of Charles Leclerc. Gets shown the gravel, so that won't help. Lewis Hamilton then leads the way on hard tyres. I'm sure he'll go round again. Will Piastri pit? Yes, he will. As will Sergio Perez. Russell goes round again, and it's Sainz who's actually pitted, now up into 3rd position. So that really shows just how well that's gone for him. That's Alonso being pushed out there, and Piastri gets back through. You kind of push one way and then you end up in a problem with the next corner along, don't you? Nikita Mazepin, I'm sure, would be delighted with this, as Hulkenberg and Stroll battle over 9 and 10. Show they're up into 13th. So this is a good run, because I think with Verstappen being shown as already lapped by the entire team, he's 19 seconds off of everyone else. So, like, Sargent and Gasly, who have been your non-scorers so far this year, at least are going to score some points, which is good for them. Is Hamilton going to pit this time by? No, he's going to continue on his way. Half distance. Banging around quite happily. Sainz now up into 2nd. Russell 3rd. Yet to pit. That's Perez versus Piastri and Alonso. Leclerc and Norris right behind as well. Norris still, I think, yet to pit and is in now 8th position. So I'm not sure these hard shod runs are working. And in fact, I'll say they definitely aren't, as here comes Carlos Sainz here to take the lead from Lewis Hamilton. Pops him immediately onto the gravel, then does his own little kick up, but that works for him for now. done on the snake. But there you go, Carlos Sainz there. Much better tyres, able to steam his way through. Needs to make sure he stays out of the gravel and into the pits there. Ricciardo and Hamilton, all the hard tired runners starting to come in now. Russell will be in too. Now you can see Perez and Leclerc have gone through, Piastri and Alonso, but they'll likely, I think they'll need another stop just because of the damage quota that's appearing as people kind of go through. If they're battling each other, if you're in clean air, you might be able to get away with this a bit better. Sonoda's in for a second stop. Guan Yu Zhou's been in for a second stop as well. So I think there's a few people here that might work out quite nicely with it. So if Zhou's able to get enough clearance from teammate Bottas and co and doesn't incur damage, that could work out quite nicely for him. Whereas this Norris versus Albon battle going on, if they keep spanking each other down into turn one, which is what I think is going to happen, no. But what Ocon did there with Verstappen, and that's where your damage comes and that's where your problems lie. But Carlos Sainz there now, 3 seconds clear from Sergio Perez, who's now up into second. Leclerc's third. Hamilton 4. Piastri, Alonso, Russell now down into 7th place. Stroll in 8th on hard tyres. Interesting. There's Leclerc and Hamilton, and Leclerc gets pushed off into the gravel. Hamilton says thank you very much, and he moves up into 3rd place. This is such an odd race to try and commentate on because it's an absolute cluster. But never mind, never mind. Through there goes Carlos Sainz popping a lap on Pierre Gasly in 15th place, quite conveniently shoving him into the gravel. Ooh, problems there for Albon trying to get out and about as Perez versus Hamilton for 2nd and 3rd. Kicks off down. You have to say actually Carlos Sainz has been caught by Perez and Hamilton, so this is not a clear-cut victory. I think this is going to be close, but things like Hamilton being able to duck around and get past Perez actually really does speed things up. Gasly there having an absolute atrocious time. So now you can see the gap went from like 3 seconds down to 1.5 for Carlos Sainz, and it won't be long before Hamilton's able to just stick it in and start hitting around the back end of Carlos Sainz. And it's because of the tyres. Look at the tyre difference there. Carlos Sainz really struggling. We said going early was going to be a problem and he could just about get to the end, but just about was the real key message there. Look at the traffic that this lot are going to come across with as Sainz blocks Hamilton coming across the line to start the penultimate lap. I think Lewis Hamilton could well be in pounds positions there, and indeed he is, straight into the lead. Carlos Sainz tries to get him back through again and does so. Ferrari versus Mercedes. Perez in 3rd, not really able to do much about it, and now here comes all the traffic as they lap Verstappen for the 2nd time. There's Albon and Zhou struggling around in the gravel as well, but that has come at the perfect time for Lewis Hamilton because he's now got clean air, and whilst Sainz was able to use Verstappen as a battering ram to get back going again, his tyres are absolutely knackered and he can't do anything about it, and that's going to allow Lewis Hamilton the beauty of being able to extend out a 3-second advantage at very least to win the Bahrain Oval Grand Prix. Hamilton wins. Perez gets 2nd of the final corner ahead of Carlos Sainz. Russell's 4. Leclerc is 5. Who's going to get 6th out of Norris or Piastri? It's going to be Norris. No, it's going to be Piastri. Gets it ahead of Norris. Stroll is 8. There's Alonso coming out of the gravel in 9. Esteban Ocon is going to be 10th. Wow. Well done. Or is he? No, Nico Hülkenberg's going to steal it at the very last second. Oh dear, ahead of Ocon, Zhou, Tsunoda, Albon. Then it was Magnussen, Ricciardo, Gasly, Bottas. Sargent scores a point. Verstappen got within 10 seconds nearly. Well, no, 15 seconds that was in the end. So he's closing down, but nowhere near fast enough. So what does that do? That keeps Russell in the lead of the Drivers' Championship ahead of the 2 Ferraris. Hamilton, though, with that win, moves up into 4th and is really closing back in. Then it's Alonso ahead of Perez, Norris, Piastri, Verstappen only 9th with that non-score. Then it's Stroll, Second half of the field being led now by Nico Hulkenberg, who moves ahead of Albon. Sonoda. Ocon up to 14th, really showing his determination in that Alpine. Ahead of Ricciardo and Magnussen. Zhou. Gasly now in double digits. Bottas and Sargent now up to 5 points. But the key here is that Ferrari are now ahead of Mercedes, but by a much shorter margin than it was before, it seems. McLaren and Aston Martin equal points, battling with Red Bull over third. Red Bull really need to get their act together. Then it's Haas just ahead of Red Bulls, and that's a swing for positions there. Then it was Alpine, who I think have moved ahead of Williams because Sargent is just not scoring the points. And Sauber are picking away towards the back, but not scoring big points enough. And we'll leave it there for the time being, and I'll come back after a break.